Welcome to Dan's Crypto Adventures. About 6 months ago, I built this miner right here, which I named Miner 1. And it is a 6 GPU mining rig, GTX 1070. It's got 2 of those, and then 4 GTX 1070 Ti's. And so in this video, I'm going to show you how I built this 6 months ago. I cannot afford all 6 GPUs, so I built the frame to support 6 GPUs, and then I built the bottom part of the computer with 1 graphics card. And then as I kind of did proof of concept, kind of showing that I could work out the programming, get it to run, get it to make money, then I decided to invest in 5 additional graphics cards. So today's video is the initial construction of the main board, power supply, and 1 graphics card. This is the GTX 1070, which is the first one right here. It is the first graphics card I put in this system. Please remember below to subscribe and also give me a like. There's also links to all of the components in this rig right here from Amazon. Remember, when you click on those, it does not cost you any extra, but it does help me out. Hopefully it'll enable me to improve this channel and put together some more videos. Welcome to Dan's Crypto Adventures. Today we're going to be putting together this rig. In a previous video I built the frame and walked you through that, so if you missed that video, look back through my previous videos and you should be able to find it pretty easily. So this video we're going to put together all of the components. Now, as I'm sure many of you, I can't afford to go out and buy 6 graphics cards. So the goal today is to put together the computer with 1 graphics card. And as it makes money and as I'm able, I will add graphics card to it. The motherboard I'll be putting in here is capable of holding 6 graphics cards in total. And so today I have a 1070, EVGA 1070, that we're going to be putting in here. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is mount the main board. Now, I have already installed the CPU and the CPU fan as well as the RAM, so I'm not going to go over that. CPU fan is plugged in. We're just going to talk about installing. I'm kind of assuming that you have some experience in building a computer and so have some knowledge of that. So what I'm going to do is get the holes on the main board lined up with the wood slats. You do want support under the whole board. And I'm going to be using these guys right here. Don't know if you can see that or not. And so I'm going to put these under each of the holes where a screw goes. So what I'm going to do is try to get it lined up. So I'm going to get it lined up where I want it to go, and I'm going to use just a drill bit or anything really to go around where the holes are and punch down through into the piece of wood so that I can see where a screw is going to be. So I'm going to have... So I'll grab a little mini hammer, so I'm going to put it in where the screw hole is going to be. Give a little tap, that way I'll know where the screws are going to be. I'm just going to be using some basic wood screws to attach this down, and a screwdriver. So once I get all the holes marked, I want to remove the main board and go back to the indents as to where a screw is going to be and put one of these with the indent right in the center. That way when I put back the main board and screw it, it'll go through this. Okay. Now for the screws, I'm just going to be using standard wood screws, nothing fancy there. Alright, so let's put the main board back where it is going to go. Once I get it lined up, I will start screwing it down. Remember, when you're screwing it down, you don't want it too tight. You just want it barely snug. Okay. Great, so now the main board is attached. Make sure it's snug. You don't want to screw the screws down all the way, just barely enough to keep it snug. Then we'll move on to the next component. Okay, so we've got the main board installed. Now we're ready to install the power supply. So I've got a 750 EVGA power supply, and again, this will be a 6-card rig, but for now I'm going to install one so that I can have one card up and running. As I'm able to afford it, I will buy additional power supply and additional cards. The first power supply installed in the system will go right here. It will go right in this spot right here. The second power supply will go in the back here, going like so, going in that direction. So let's get this one installed. So to install the power supply, I've drilled 2 holes in the frame here that line up with the holes on the power supply. So the screw will go through the frame and into the power supply. Great, so now we've got the power supply secured in there, so it looks good. Now we can start plugging in a couple of the components. So the first thing I'm going to plug in is the main board. So this is where we have the large connector, so we'll go ahead and plug that in. Next, we're going to do the CPU. Next, we're going to plug in the power for the SATA connection for the hard drive. And then the power for one of the power cables for the GPU. And then the second cable for the GPU. Okay, the hard drive is going to be mounted on the back here. I've already drilled 2 holes. So I'm using an SSD. You can use thumb drive, SSD, conventional disk drive, whatever is cheap and whatever's on hand. So I'm going to mount my hard drive right there. Great, so the hard drive is mounted, so let's go ahead and hook up the power for it. And let's go ahead and plug in the SATA cable for it. Now we're ready to install the first GPU. So I've got an EVGA 1070 here. I've got the riser already mounted on there. So I'm going to just test fit it into place. Make sure everything fits. I'm just going to use a basic small wood screw. I do like to secure the risers. Some people just have the riser sitting on the piece of wood and don't attach it. I like to attach it so that if I'm carrying the rig around, just don't want it to be loose or be damaged from movement. So I do have a long bit on there, so I'm just going to leave it in place like this and go ahead and put a screw in it to hold it in place, and then I'll put the second screw in. Okay, so now I've got the first screw in. Now I'll put the second one in after I remove the GPU. So now I've put both screws in for the riser. Again, just barely snug. I just don't want it to be moving too much. I don't want to tighten those screws down too much. For those of you that don't know, this is a riser. So this is the flat piece that the GPU plugs into. It will have two wires that come out the back. One is a conventional USB cable, that's the blue cable. And then you have the power. So in this case you have a Molex connection going to a SATA connection. At the end of the USB, you have this device right here, which will plug into the main board where the GPU would go. So I've got the cables for my riser. We'll plug in the USB. Plug in the power cable. Now this power goes to a SATA, so I'll plug that into the same cord that goes to the hard drive. And then my USB, I'm going to run it around and plug it into the first GPU connection on the main board. And now I'm ready to install the GPU itself. So here is my GPU. It is an EVGA 1070. So make sure you snap it into the riser well. I like to lock it in with a little tab here on the back of the riser cable. And then I do want to screw in the front of it as well. Then I just need to connect the power directly to the riser. This is an EVGA 1070, so there's two 8-pin connections. Both must be plugged in. Now we are put together. Could use a little bit of cable management, but everything is hooked up and ready to turn on. One thing I like to do before I put power to this is use compressed air to knock out any little bits of metal or wood or anything that may have fallen on the main board. I've drilled a lot of holes in this, and if any pieces of metal get on anything, that could damage the main board or any other component. So I have a compressed air tank right across the room that I can use. You can also use a can of compressed air. Whatever you have handy is perfectly fine. I actually do this to all of my rigs every few weeks just to get any dust or debris that may have settled on them, fallen on them while they're in use. Just a good way, easy way to get all the dust out. So now I'm ready to hook up the power and internet and turn it on and see what happens. So thank you for watching Dan's Crypto Adventures. As always, I don't pretend to know everything. I'm only showing you what I've done, what I have I've been successful at doing. I'm sure there are better ways to do it, but this is the way that I do it, and it's worked pretty well. So today we put together the parts for a 1 GPU rig that's capable of having a total of 6. As soon as I have the money and can afford it, then I'll put 6 cards in here and make another video showing that process. But hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and click the like button in the bottom. I'm also going to have links to all of this hardware, so if you want to see what components I've used, please do so. They are Amazon links, and so if you go follow those links and make any purchase, it does not cost you any more, but it does give me a bit of a share in that price, and so that would be appreciated. That would help me put together more videos showing you what other rigs I've built and put together, and other just technology things that I've done as well. So thank you, and hit subscribe.